How's everybody doing? Well, welcome to the fish room. In today's video, I thought I'd do a quick little mini tour. It's after work, it's a little bit late at night, so some of my timers are off. But I'm gonna go through, show you all my tanks, and I'm gonna do a feeding, show you what foods I feed. Every day I feed crushed up guppy flake food and algae wafer pellets. So every day I feed those in the morning and at night. Really good for my guppies and my plecos. I also have my clownfish of my new saltwater tank we'll take a look at. But here's just a real quick video. I want to stay updated on my stuff. So let's go through. We're going to start from the wall tank and work all the way down. This will be just a kind of a mini tour today. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Any of the products I'm using will be down in the description. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you like the content. And hit the notification bell, especially people commenting on the videos. I see most of your comments, but sometimes I don't see them if you're not already subscribed. So if you guys are commenting on any of the videos and I don't answer them, it's usually because I don't see them because you're not subscribed. I know there's ways I can see it, but it won't be in my notifications on my side. So make sure if you guys like to watch the videos and comment, make sure you're already subscribed so I can read all that stuff. So thanks again, guys, but let's go ahead and let's jump into the video and we'll start feeding some of the fish. First tank is the wall tank, and obviously I have my removable background off. The lights are off, so it's gonna be a little bit harder to see, but we have an assortment of guppies in here, some fancy guppies. I have some of my reds, some of my yellow half blacks. We won't spend too much time looking at this tank because it's gonna be hard to see most of these guys. But these guys get, and you can see all the babies in there because they do pretty well with the fake plants. But we're gonna go ahead, I have some crushed up flake food here. Running low on it. I do buy a big bag of this. I buy like 5 pounds and it lasts me a few months. But we're gonna go ahead and feed a pretty large pinch of this. And I usually crush it up real small. I'll feed that, and I usually give these guys about half an algae wafer. That's good for all the parents and the babies. And the wafer kind of just gives them something they can graze on for hours to come. It doesn't really get eaten in a few minutes. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. There's no plecos in this tank, so I just do a half wafer. And I try to drop it in a spot where there's the least amount of coverage. So right there is actually perfect. I don't go down where the tank's bare bottom. And these guys will get to feed on that overnight. And then in the morning, there might be a little bit left, depending on how early all these timers go off. But let's jump over the next tank. Here we have a little 5-gallon tank. This tank is kind of interesting. This is when I tore down my 20-gallon high tank. And I had those orange shrimp in there. And what this has is some baby orange shrimp. I can see a couple, and see if I can zoom in a little bit. I saw one a second ago. It's gonna be hard to catch on camera. This is a weird spot in the fish room. Kind of look around the corner, but mainly what this is a Scud Tank. So I think that's what it's called. I've said it before. They're just like little, almost like nuisance snails. But they kind of just hang out in the tank. I have some baby shrimps in here growing out, and eventually I think I can use a good food source. And I'm trying to grow some, just some water sprite on top. These guys will feed some pellets or just algae wafers, really anything. These guys are not picky, and I have so many of them. I'm kind of just keeping them alive and keeping them separated at this point. But we'll throw that in there. Eventually I think I might put like a breeding pair or like a pregnant female guppy in here so she can eat a bunch of food. Or I can always go through and siphon these out and put them in a bare bottom tank to feed some larger fish. But so you can see them, they kind of just crawl around the bottom of the tank. I try to not have them in most of my tanks. They're really only in this tank and a couple in my shrimp. But for the most part, I keep them pretty separate. But I think they could maybe be useful in the future. If not, I still have some shrimp in here that I think I can see one back there. Real blurry, but in front of the plants in the back, you can see a little shrimp in the middle of the screen there. There's some scuds in the middle. You can see there's 2 on top of each other, so we're gonna be some more scuds. But they'll get algae wafers, flake food, pellets, whatever. Just make sure they're staying alive. This is my shrimp tank, and you can see a lot of these guys babies that I tried showing you in a previous video. You can see there's a scud right there in the middle. My eye draws to them if I see them in the tank. I've been going through and just siphoning them out once I see them, but back to what I'm trying to show you is the shrimp. A lot of nice adults in here, and the babies are putting some size on. You can see there's a few on the sponge filter there. There's a nice big one right there on the plants. Real nice orange, almost a red color. But if you see the babies in here, like here's some babies in the corner. These guys are putting on some good size. I'm starting to get some little nuisance snails as well, but lots of baby shrimp getting bigger. There's some in the back there if it'll focus in. But those guys were tiny, tiny little specks like 2 weeks ago. So they're putting on some good size pretty quick. And as for these guys, I usually give them some real small, tiny pinch of crushed up flake food. That way the babies will get it. It'll kind of get stuck to the sponge filter over time, and they like to feed off of that. And then I feed them those algae wafers. You can see it in my hand there. I usually get one or like a 3/4 of one, and I'll break it up to a bunch of small pieces and I'll spread it out on the front of the tank. So hopefully you can see those sinking down, and those are actually kind of big chunks. So I don't want a snail to go on top and just hog the whole thing. I want to break them up into as small pieces as possible so they can all feed around it. Break off chunks from that, and then the babies can feed as well. So you can kind of see those floating down there, and within the next almost immediately you can see these guys go into the food. But within the next 10 minutes or so, these guys will be covering all those algae wafers down there, and the babies are just doing really well. So you kind of just you can see the results of how many babies there are, especially in person when I'm looking through this tank. There's like 50 or so babies in this tank, if not 100, and they're putting on good size. I can see a baby in the back that's actually starting to color up, which is pretty cool. There's two in the back. That one to the right, putting on some size. He's pretty colorful. About 2 weeks ago, that shrimp would have had no color at all. So that's pretty cool. I got to go through and clean this tank up a little bit, make sure I'm keeping the strain pure, not getting any lighter colors, trying to keep it pretty dark. But they do get more color as they age, so you can't call them or move them too early. But moving to the next tank over here, this is where I put any of the calls of the shrimp. And I also recently put a pair of guppies in here, and they had some babies. I think I saw there's one up at the top of the tank. See all the snails, and then see that little speck up there, that's a baby guppy. So these guys get some crushed flake food. But this guppy pair is really cool. They both have nice color. You can see the male's breeding with the female there. But I'm more so breeding these guys for their hardiness. So I had a tank that was almost like a complete failure. I had probably 50 guppies, most of them adults, still some babies. And they all just had bad tails. They had like a bacterial infection where they kind of had just like a fungus on their body. They were still fine. They were breeding. They were like living with it. It wasn't killing the fish. But these were the only two in the tank that didn't have it at all. So I basically called the whole tank, but these two look pretty good. So I decided to keep them and let these guys breed and get some future babies and kind of keep this as a separate strain. But these will just be assorted guppies, but they're really just hardy. So something where people were having problems with parasites or bacteria, things like that, these fish are going to do really well for them, and their babies are going to be very strong. So I think that's always a cool thing to breed for that you can't see, but you kind of just can work on and know through your progress of breeding over time. So I figured how I had so many sick fish in that tank, but these two were just super healthy in my opinion, at least comparably. They got to have a really good immune system, be some healthy fish. So I figured I'd keep these guys and let them breed. So they're in this tank with got some scuds in here, some baby shrimp, and they have that one solo baby guppy as for now. So they're doing pretty well. This tank has a lot of snails, so they're going to get an algae wafer, maybe two. I'll break them up into pieces, and some flake food. Just crushed up some flakes for the guppies and the babies, also the shrimp in there, and then I'll break up some algae wafers. Here's one here. I'll break it up into like 3 pieces, and then I'll take a half and I'll put it over on the left side of the tank. Just kind of spread them out. We'll go ahead and move over to the next tank. So this tank are the baby guppies I showed in my older videos of how to breed the guppies and use like a drop tank, how to prevent your fish from eating the babies. Hopefully you can see them somewhere around the tank. These guys get some crushed up flake food 2 if not 3 times a day if I'm home. In between the day I'll give them a little bit more, but I'm only giving them twice a day. I know more is better, but I'm just kind of doing what I can with my work schedule, and they're still putting on good size pretty consistently. There's nothing in there from the hide from, so I don't need any hiding places. There's no adult fish in this tank. They're doing pretty well, and there's probably a good 2 dozen guppies in here. Hopefully you can see it okay. I turned the light on the camera for this shot, but we'll go ahead and move a little bit closer so we can see these guys from around that tank. But just gonna grow these guys out, see what they turn out to be, and I will end up separating these from males and females once I can tell, and maybe get some future fancy strains out of this. But we'll just keep kind of moving through. There's a bunch of babies there. You can see them kind of hanging out towards the bottom, and then it's really cool to see them schooling at the top, but it's hard to catch that camera shot. Moving over to the next tank, this is pretty cool. Just as of a day or two ago, I spotted some babies in here, so I caught out my yellow half-black female. I put her in here with all the acrylic yarn. I did a video on that you can check out, but we're gonna go ahead and look for any babies in this tank, because I know I saw some this morning, so I made sure I caught her out. Here's one right there. It'll focus in for us. Right there in the middle of the screen, you see a little baby guppy. And that guy's like a day old, maybe 2 days old at most. And it's hard to see with the glare from that light, and I always forget to clean the glass before I do a video, but it's very important because that'll be a much cleaner shot. But you can see there's a baby there. These guys are gonna get some crushed up flake food. We'll see if we can spot any others, but as for now, we'll go kind of quick through this. And I do have the DIY lids on this tank, so it keeps the humidity in there. Make sure the parents, the mom can't jump out whenever I was waiting for her to have the babies. And just a small bit of flake food I'll sprinkle in there. I'll also feed the powder of the algae wafers. So I'll show that real quick. If you buy the large bulk of the algae wafers, usually you get some like crunched up small little bits at the bottom of the bag. I usually save that, and it's a really good food. You also could just blend it up. I bought those little like slap, whatever they're called, blenders, where you put the thing on and then you push it down and it blends up the food, or a milkshake or whatever you have. I've used that for fish food in the past, and that definitely works too. So it's something you can kind of make it yourself. But we'll move over to this next tank. I'll probably turn the light off here, but you can see there's a lot of yellow half-blacks in here and babies. You can even kind of see their shadows behind the wall, so that's kind of cool. It looks like there's 2 fish there. But this tank's doing pretty well. Lots of babies. I do have some plecos in there, some baby plecos, some big mystery snails, and that moss is growing pretty well on the right. But this tank, I'll give a large pinch of flake food, usually 2 or 3, depending on how big of a pinch I get. And then I'm going to probably feed around 5 to 6 algae wafers. I try to drop them right here in the center, so I have a little blank spot where the food can sit and not get stuck in the moss. But there are a bunch of babies. I'll zoom in on them, and then I have a couple spots around my lid in the corner where I can drop them in the back. I usually do 1 or 2 to the side, and then 5 or 6 up in the front. Really kind of just judging off how much they're going to eat and then how much is left over, and then I always can up the amount depending. But you can see that kind of just like rains down food. And it's very small amounts, so the parents won't get bloated. They're taking a bunch of small bites instead of eating large pellets or real big flakes, so they can feed longer, and it kind of disperses through the tank. And there are just tons of babies in here, and they really have a nice half black body on a lot of these, which is cool. The colors kind of starting to show through. So I'm excited to raise these guys up, see how their tails develop, and just continue to breed them. But you can see there's some nice plecos in here. You see some babies up front. There's 2 right there. Big old mystery snail. We have a super red there. We have an albino long fin. These are all my holdbacks. I have a common over here. Another super red, kind of a low grade. Actually, that might be in a, that's a lemon blue eye. Here we have a long fin common. Real nice fish. I like those guys a lot. They actually throw calicos and super reds with their genetics they carry. Down here, I think we have a super red, maybe an albino. Kind of hard to see. Nice big female. Another long fin. You can see some babies, a little piece of driftwood. But pretty cool tank. I really like this tank a lot. That's a nice super red there. You can definitely see the difference in the color right now. But I like this moss, like growing all over the place on top of the acrylic yarn. Great hiding places. Looks really cool. And they're just powered off these little LED puck lights. These are lights you put like under your kitchen cabinets. They're linkable. I'll try to find the link for those down in the description. I'll post them. But that's how I'm running my lights right now. It's just temporary, but it hooks up over here. I power it by a remote. This is pretty cool. So this is the only thing I do automatically. I turn those off before I go to bed. I turn them on in the morning. Same with this light here. This big overhead LED shop light, that's on a timer, and then my lights for the shrimp tank right there and for the wall tank are on a timer. So if I'm ever away, I just keep this light off, and then everything else is going to be automated. So if I'm away for a day or two, I don't have to worry about feeding the fish. I'll give them some extra algae wafers. I'll turn off all the manual lights, and then everything else is on timer, so the moss and plants will be fine. The fish will still get day and night stimulation or whatever. But so there's that tank. We'll drop down to the tank below it. Down in this tank I have my purple Delta Guppies. They've not been breeding very well for me recently. I still have a couple trios in this tank, and there's a very large tank, a lot of hiding places. I am going to turn the flashlight on the phone in a second, but I have a lot of adult bristlenose plecos in here, a few babies. And this is more so just a holdback tank for selling, and also just for my pairs. If I ever lose any plecos, I have kind of a backup stock. But I'll put 5 or 6 wafers in there, kind of broken up, and then I'll feed my flake food again. Not nearly as much, but I do feed a good bit because I do want them to eat a lot of food and start to have some babies, and obviously not eat them. Turning the light on for a second, you can kind of see the color from above. These are kind of like, I call them my purple painted guppies. Purple painted Delta Guppies. You can see the Delta just means a large squared off tail. That male to the left, you can see the mix of pattern in them. I think is really cool. That's what I'm calling the painted. There's a nice like painted female, and that just means they're purple with kind of splashes of color. Some still have the purple. I do have one nice big male in here that has a dark purple tail. Really nice big body shape. You can see, where is he? Not there. He was here. He just must have moved. Oh, there he is. Right in the middle behind these guys. Right there, that's a male. So he's got a nice big belly. He's not bloated. Really strong body shape. He's right there in the middle of the camera shot. That's a male. So he's going to be good for future breeding. He can catch up with the females. Really can carry his tail, even though he's a smaller tail. But he's a nice fish. And down here you can see some of the larger plecos. We got a nice big mystery snail. Some breeding pairs of common albinos. Right there is a perfect breeding pair. The males may be a little small if I were to pick those two out, but the left is a male, to the right's a nice big female. I have some albinos in there. There's like my little bulldog pleco. Any of you guys have been following the channel for a long time, I still got him. He's got like the short nose, bristle nose. His face kind of pushed in. He's a little bit older now, so it's harder to tell, but still keeping him. Just kind of been hanging out. But yeah, pretty simple tank. Got a lot of hiding places. Mostly common plecos, but there's some like a little bit smaller guppies here. They're almost ready to breed. But these guys haven't bred for a while. They used to be a really good breeder for me and a really cool strain. So I think the adults are just getting a little bit old. So if those babies grow up and they breed and don't eat their babies, and I can kind of get these guys going again. But keep moving forward. This is a lot longer of a mini tour than I was expecting, but got a couple more tanks to go. We're almost done. This tank's another bottom 55 gallon, similar to one we just looked at. It's mostly Pleco holdbacks. This one I have a little bit more breeding going on. I have some Pleco caves, and I caught all the guppies out of here. There may be a few baby stragglers, but what my goals are for these bottom 2 tanks, I would like to have one tank be almost bare bottom with like 4 sponge filters, so a lot of high flow, easy to clean, with all adult plecos. So just backup breeding stock in this tank, and then move all the babies into this tank here, catch all that acrylic yarn out, move the guppies to another tank, more sponge filters, more airflow. So these 2 bottom tanks would be bare bottom. They would have high flow, lots of hiding places as of like PVC. I want to make like a PVC going front to back so I can see through them, like make big pyramids, zip tie them together, whatever, tie them together, so the fish can hide inside there. And when it comes to selling them and catching them, I could just lift that PVC up, turn it sideways with a net on the other side, lift it out, and I could catch 50 plecos at a time, ideally, especially for the baby tank. So this could be all babies, grow outs, and then over here, the tank we're looking at could be all the adults. And then my other tanks, I could actually have breeding pairs whenever they breed, pull the babies down to the tank next to it, and just etc, etc. But let's go ahead and look at a few of the plecos in this bottom tank because there are some really nice adults. So I'm going to keep the flash off so we're not going to see as well, but we're not going to fight the glare. This is a really nice long fin common female, it looks like. If I go a little bit lower, you can kind of see her fins almost so long they go back and up. Down here we have a nice blue eye, lemon blue eye, or like albino leucistic. There's that cool little baby lemon blue eye with a black spot on his head. Over here comes a nice albino, big breeder male, a couple babies hanging out on the driftwood, some on the front of the glass. There's a young female adult, nice big female long fin. And I am planning on moving a pair of those into a 29 gallon to breed, and she's ready to breed. She's going in that cave. Over here we have a nice long fin. Let me turn the light on for a second and see if we can see him. So there you can kind of see his fins. Super nice fish. I love those common long fins. And for my next video, if I do a longer tour, even though this is kind of long, I'm going to go through and clean all the glass because this is just bad. There's really nice fish here and we can't really see them. So gotta get through and just wipe all these tanks down next time before I do them, and do a water change because we have a lot of debris on the bottom. This tank had a bunch of acrylic yarn in it and I pulled it all out, so all of the waste that was kind of resting inside it, being beneficial bacteria and just another source of filtration, it all kind of poured out. So whenever I did a water change, I got a lot out, but it kind of just settles at the bottom. It doesn't hurt much, so it's actually good for the babies to kind of chew on and feed off that. But let's go ahead, move to a tank over here, and then we'll turn the flashlight off for this top tank because it's got a light on it. But this tank here is kind of a breeding tank, similar to the one we just looked at, but I have more breeding caves and there's actually babies. So you can see a nice big long fin male there. Outside the cave, you can see his bristles on his nose. There goes a blue eye, lemon or albino female. Lots and lots of babies. You can almost see their eyes glaring from off the light. There's some hanging out on the sponge filter here. And you know what? I'm going to pause this video right now and clean this glass. Alright, there we go. Much better. Sorry about that, guys. That was driving me crazy and I was just being too lazy. I had to go ahead and clean this. I hate watching people's videos where the tank's too dirty, you can't see inside. Just trying to do a quick video, but if I'm going to spend enough time to make the video, may as well clean the tank. But check out these guys. I just threw some wafers in here. I almost forgot to feed these tanks. I started talking about the fish. But I went ahead and fed this tank some algae wafers. They get almost like 8 to 10 wafers for how many adults and babies are in this tank. And they go straight to the food. They know exactly what feeding time is. But there's a younger female and an older female. Lots of babies. Nice big male right here, and I'm actually turning the light off, see if it helps us capture some more. There's another male over here. This is a really nice breeding tank, kind of colony breeding them. I have this flower pot over there, it's larger. There's a smaller one there, and there's also another one in the corner that's upside down with a lid, and I just kind of punch a hole in the side. Let's go ahead and turn the light off though and watch these guys feed for a second. The light in the back still gives us a little bit of view. Gives us some glare too, but you can see these guys, he's just chowing down on algae wafer. These fins are going crazy, he's definitely hungry. And you can see the blue eye lemons in the back right there, it's a younger female. The lemon blue eyes, I keep saying that backwards, but lemon blue eye plecos and the super reds, they tend to stay a little bit smaller than my long fins and my albinos and my blacks. So probably more of a genetic mutation or whatever, because you're inbreeding. If they're smaller fish, they're probably gonna stay smaller over time and they're kind of keep breeding the same ones together. I love seeing those guys swim around with their fins. So he's a little bit torn up, probably because we got two males in here. It looks like he's the bigger one and he probably fights more with the younger one. Whether he's winning or not, I don't know. But he's got really nice fins. If he was by himself, they would heal up in no time. Here's another male that's like a nice lemon or an albino, and just babies all over the place. Bunch of baby snails too, but lots of baby plecos. Very important to feed these guys those algae wafers at least twice a day, and don't go short on it and feed them just 1 or 2 for the whole tank. You got to break them up, spread them out so they can actually get to the food. You put one enormous algae wafer in here, one big male is going to hog the whole thing, and they'll just kind of fight for the scraps. If you break that same algae wafer, same amount of food, up into 10 pieces and they're smaller, spread them out, all these fish will get a lot more food. They'll be less stressed out, there'll be less fighting, and they'll do a lot better for you. But there's a bunch of babies here. You can just kind of see them wiggling. But let's go ahead and move over to the next tank. This tank here is the tank. I tore down my aquaponics. I cleaned out the gravel a little bit, just rinsed it with tank water, and I just dropped it in this tank. So I'm gonna spread that out. I like to grow nice moss on the bottom of this tank, do some flower pots for breeding, maybe do my purple guppies up here and a nice pair of long fins or some super reds. But I need to get a light on that first so I can grow some more moss. While we're down here, I don't want to make this the last tank. This is my beginner saltwater tank. The tank is very stable, it's doing well. You can see these flower pots I tossed in there. The reason for that is my clownfish is not really eating much. You can see him off the mirror back there hanging out the bottom. He still is alert. Whenever I come up to the tank, he usually comes up to me. It's late right now, I don't want to mess with him. But anytime I drop food in the tank, he'll usually run up after it and then he loses interest, or he'll bite it and then spit it back out. So I've been feeding him a mix of pellets, flake food. I even got some marine special flake food and frozen brine shrimp. I got him to eat the frozen brine shrimp the other day, and he's over here. See if I can get him on the camera. He's starting to get kind of skinny on me. It's a little bit frustrating, but I did order some garlic extract or whatever for the made for fish, and I'm gonna try to get him eating a little bit more, put some size on him. But I'm kind of fasting him every few days because he's not eating, so I don't want to keep putting food in every day and him not eat it. So I'm just trying out different things. Once I put these flower pots in there, he definitely calmed down immediately that night. He was hanging out here. When I came up to the tank, he came up and he was checking me out. He looked a lot more alert. He just seemed more comfortable and less stressed out. So I'm gonna keep trying stuff. Maybe I should get some fake plants in here. But he's not looking terrible. He doesn't look like he has any diseases or anything, but he's just not eating. So I'm gonna keep messing with that. That's gonna be a future video. Once I get the garlic in, I'm gonna test it out, see if he takes to it. And then from there on out, hopefully it's smooth sailing. But he's still alive, he's doing okay. I wish he was eating. It's very frustrating when they don't eat. He ate the very first day. I didn't feed him for a day. The second day he ate. But he started the second day, he did the same thing, but he would spit the food out. He wouldn't actually swallow it. He always shows interest, but he never really commits and finishes it. I think the food's a little bit too hard. But I'm gonna keep trying on it. And what I want is a hardy, healthy stud fish in this tank. So I don't want to baby him too much. I just want to get him through this hump of acclimating to the tank and just getting comfortable. But oh well, we'll have another video on him soon. He's still a super cool fish. But let's go ahead and check out the last tank. I just put some food in there a minute ago, so they should be already feeding. Last but not least, guys, it's one of my favorite tanks in the fish room. Not for the way it looks, even though I do like this moss that's starting to grow in here a little bit. But the fish in this tank, I have some baby red plecos in here, and I have some of the coolest, in my opinion, bristlenose plecos. I did a real short, like 20-second video on these guys just 'cause I thought they were so cool, which doesn't really help me out. The short videos like that don't get a lot of views, and usually it actually hurts my view duration. So if I'm making a video that's real short, if you watch the entire thing, it still affects my time. But forget about that stuff, it's not important. I think this tank is so cool because this is all of my Pleco breeding holdbacks. So I have some super reds in here. I have some long fin super reds. Like I only have like 1 or 2 of these guys. Really, really cool fish. Some people ask me if I have them for sale, and I just really don't. I only have 1 or 2. I can't sell them. But I'm really excited to grow these guys out, and they grow so slow, but grow them out and breed them. I have some long fin calicos or red marbles, long fin albinos, tons of super reds, and a lot of these I just want to grow up. I want to have, like, literally down here I have this adult tank for grow up plecos and sell them as pairs. I want to have like 40 adult super red plecos where I can just breed them endlessly, and I can sell pairs and have babies beyond babies. I want to be able to have them like I had my common plecos back in the day, where I can have 500 super reds in there babies and then have like 20 adults. So that's my goal. I just got to be patient. I got to not sell out and just keep going for a quick buck instead of the long-term goal. But that's what I'm doing. So here is a really cool shot. That's a long fin red marble or calico, whatever you want to call them. I have a standard fin to the right. He just swam away. I have a nice long fin with perfect fins, no nippings. Once they get older and they start to fight for maturity, and you have multiple males, they might get a little tethered up. But that's like a beautiful, just like good looking fish. His fins are perfect, in my opinion. If you just bought one and kept it in a show tank, nice planted tank, it would look amazing. There's another one back there. You can kind of see his reflection because I have the mirror in the back. Another red marble. Tons of super reds. You can see the tiny, tiny babies because I have some adults in here breeding as well. There's a real nice long fin common, kind of strutting his stuff. He's got his fins open. They're searching for food. I got those algae wafers there. You can see a couple of them. Some breeding caves. This guy's got a little bit of size on it. If that's a female, it's almost getting ready to breed. These guys breed at like 3 inches, maybe. They're real small. They don't breed at like 4 and 5 inches like my other bristlenose. They breed a little bit smaller, so they grow a lot slower. Like that looks like a young female. You can see her belly's getting swollen up, getting ready to breed. But not just yet. I've seen them breed or heard of them breeding pretty small from other people, other hobbyists. Like there's a nice albino standard. That's a young female, it looks like. I have one female in here. I know I'm talking really fast and kind of rambling, but that's what happens when I talk about like these tanks that I really like or the fish I'm excited about. I have one female in here. It's a super red female, pretty small. She's like 2.5, like 3 inches. This might be her right there actually. And she is just fat beyond fat. Looks like she's about to pop, and she actually looks a little bit smaller, so maybe she bred, but still super, super fat. Like you can see how fat she is. I swear she was even bigger a few days ago. A little concerning. I hope she breeds, but I might have to pull her out, put her in another tank with a smaller male to let her breed, because my male for the super reds is like twice her size, which you want the male to be a little bit bigger, but not that much of a difference. So I might even put her with a smaller like albino male, something I know is dominant, that can breed with her and just get some babies out of it, and then hopefully her belly gets smaller and she can breed again. But I'm a little concerned it's almost too big, but that's something. If I put her with like an albino male down there that has a lot of big bristles, it's kind of guarding a spot, I know it's ready to breed, but maybe the females are too big for them. If I put these two together, they would probably breed within a few days, as long as I feed them right, give them a nice breeding cave to go into. But let's keep looking around. This is a really nice red marble, getting some good size. This is one of my biggest ones yet. I don't have ever, or to this day, any adult long fin calicos, red marbles, or even super red adults. So I have some babies from crossbreeding, but I don't have any adults of these fish. So that's why I just am so hesitant to sell any of them, to sell any of those guys. So I really just need to grow them up and get some babies out of them and just keep growing my strain. But we're gonna take a look in this breeding cave and kind of end the video, see if we got anything going on. I thought I wiped this tank, but I'm gonna clean it a little bit better for you guys so we can see in here. But usually I have a nice big super red male in this tank. So let's see, he's actually not in the cave, that's disappointing. I was hoping we could see him and maybe even see some babies, you never know. I usually find cool surprises when I'm on the camera, but he's in here somewhere. I don't know where he went, maybe he went to find some food. But he just hides under all of this mess of acrylic yarn, so he just hangs out beneath here. They've even bred under this stuff because it's so dense instead of the cave. But I don't want to stir anything up. Maybe I can look from beneath the tank, see if we can see him. So if you can't see much, you can see all the dirt on the bottom of the tank. Here's a medium-sized female down there. Up in the front I can see a normal guy. There might be some in the cave. Just too hard to see. I don't want to waste too much time doing this, guys, but I want to kind of show you what I'm looking for. You can see how we're under the tank. There's some babies in the back. Right there is the breeding cave. So I was expecting him to be around the side somewhere, but I'm not seeing him. So he's definitely in the tank. I saw him this morning, but maybe he's in one of the other caves, so who knows. Could be in this cave over here. Don't see him right now, but thank you guys all for watching. I'll probably wrap this video up. Man, those guys are looking good too. They're getting pretty big. That long fin and that looks like a young female, maybe a male without the bristles yet, feeding on some wafers there. But I'm gonna wrap this video up. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for dealing with my camera quality. I kind of go quick, but I do my best. I want to share some stuff with you in the fish room. Do a little video, definitely longer than I anticipated, but thank you all for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers. If you're not subscribed already, go below, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out. Keeps me going in the fish room, makes me put more content out and just kind of stay up to date on things. Thanks again. I'm going to post some videos here on this end screen. You can click on some of my older stuff. I talked about how to prevent your baby guppies from being eaten by the parents using a drop tank. Showing those shrimp over there in that tank whenever they're real small babies. I did a video on starting up the saltwater tank, all that good stuff. I'm already putting them on the screen now. So click on those videos, keep watching from the channel. If you like the stuff, stay tuned, get notified, hit the notification bell. Things you hear from everybody else, but we say it because it's important to us. If you guys do it, it helps us out a whole bunch. I know I personally do it for other people. I watch their videos, I really enjoy their stuff. I want them to keep watching things, and if they can benefit from it, great. So that's what I try to do. But thanks again. Click on those videos. Hopefully you like this, and stay tuned for more.